On November 7, 1872, a ship departed off New York to Italy with 10 people on board. The ship never reached its destination, rather she was spotted adrift in the Atlantic Ocean. Cargo and the personal belongings were intact. The physical condition of the ship was reasonable. The only odd thing was that all 10 people on board were missing. This is the story of Mary Celeste, the ghost ship. Mary Celeste was built in Nova Scotia under the name Amazon in 1861. She was later transferred to American ownership and acquired her new name. In 1872, Mary Celeste underwent major structural changes, increasing her dimensions. On October 29, 1872, a man named Benjamin Spooner Briggs took over as the new captain for her first voyage after the major refit. Benjamin Briggs was born in 1835 in Wareham, Massachusetts. He went on to become a sea captain like his father. He was very experienced and well known within his profession. In 1872, Captain Briggs arranged for his wife Sarah and daughter Sophia to accompany him on the Mary Celeste voyage, while his son Arthur was left with his grandmother. Briggs chose a crew consisting of 7 men. The first man was Albert Richardson, who had sailed under Briggs before. The second man was Andrew Gilling, who was born in New York. The steward was Edward Head, who was recommended by Mary Celeste's shareholder. The remaining 4 were German seamen. The crew was described as peaceful and first class. On October 20, 1872, Briggs came to New York to supervise the loading of 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol. A week later, he was joined by his wife and daughter. On 3rd November, Briggs wrote a letter to his mother saying, "We seem to have a very good mate and steward, and I hope I shall have a pleasant voyage. We finished loading last night and shall leave on Tuesday morning if we don't get off tomorrow night, the Lord willing. Our vessel is in beautiful trim and I hope we shall have a fine passage, but I have never been in her before and can't say how she will sail." On 7th November, Mary Celeste left the harbour and entered the Atlantic, destined for Genoa, Italy. While Mary Celeste was preparing to sail, a Canadian ship named De Gratia was being loaded with petroleum at New Jersey. She was under the command of David Morehouse and was destined for Genoa, Italy also. De Gratia departed on 15th November, 8 days after Mary Celeste, following the same route. On December 4, 1872, De Gratia reached midway between the Azores and coast of Portugal. The crew spotted a ship about 10 kilometers away heading unsteadily towards them. The ship's odd movement and sails led Captain Morehouse to suspect something was not right. They steered towards the ship, but they couldn't see anyone on the deck, and no one replied to their signals. 2 men were sent on board and it was discovered the ship was Mary Celeste as it was written on the stern. They couldn't find anyone on the ship, but they made some interesting observations. Some sails were in poor condition and some were missing. The binnacle containing instruments was misplaced with its glass broken. The ship's one end, the only lifeboat, was missing. There was about 1 meter of water in the hold, which is significant but unalarming for a ship of that size. A device measuring the amount of water in the hold was found abandoned on the deck. They found the ship's daily logbook and the last entry was at 8 a.m. on 25th November, or 9 days ago. It recorded the position of Mary Celeste near Santa Maria Island in the Azores, which is nearly 740 kilometers from the point De Gratia found her. On further inspection, they found the personal belongings were in order. There were no signs of fire or violence. The cargo was intact, and there were ample food supplies left. However, some ship's paper and navigational instruments were missing, which indicated an orderly departure from the ship using the lifeboat. Under maritime law, a salvor can get a significant share of rescued ships and cargo's value. So Captain Morehouse decided to divide the crew between De Gratia and Mary Celeste and set sails for Gibraltar, 1,100 kilometers away. Upon reaching, Mary Celeste was impounded to prepare for salvage hearings. On December 17, 1872, the court hearings began under Chief Justice of Gibraltar, Sir James Cochrane. The hearing was conducted by Frederick Solifleur, the Attorney General of Gibraltar. The testimonies of De Gratia crew made Flood believe that a crime had been committed. On December 23rd, Flood ordered an examination of Mary Celeste. Some cuts believed to be made by a sharp instrument were found on the bow of the ship. They found the captain's sword with possible blood traces. The possibility of harsh weather was ruled out as most of the things were in their places. It was also concluded that the ship was not involved in any collisions. More possible traces of blood and deep marks were found on the ship's rails. On January 22, 1873, Flood sent his report to London with his own conclusion that the crew got their hands on the alcohol and killed Briggs and his family in a drunken frenzy. They had made cut marks to simulate a collision and then fled using the lifeboat. He also believed Captain Morehouse was hiding something and that the daily logbook had been doctored, as he refused to believe Mary Celeste could have traveled such a distance unmanned. However, Flood conveniently ignored the fact that the cargo alcohol was denatured, therefore unfit for consumption. One thing to note is that personal belongings of two German crewmen were missing. On January 29, James Winchester, one of the Mary Celeste shareholders, testified to Briggs' high character and insisted he would not have abandoned the ship except in extremity. On further analysis of possible blood traces, it was found the stains were not blood. Moreover, some people claimed that the cut marks were caused by the natural actions of the sea. With all this combined, Flood had to release Mary Celeste, which then sailed to its destination under a new crew. The hearings were officially concluded, with Chief Justice saying Morehouse and his crew would be under suspicion in the court of public opinion forever. The obvious question here is, what really happened to the Mary Celeste? Theories involving sea monsters and aliens are frequently thrown around, but all of them are baseless. The official statement by Solifleur is inconclusive as it has numerous flaws. Piracy can also be ruled out as no item of value was missing from the ship. Some believe there was foul play on De Gratia's part, where Captain Morehouse and his crew slaughtered everyone on Mary Celeste. However, no evidence of foul play was found in the examination. Moreover, the fact that De Gratia left the harbor 8 days after Mary Celeste, and it was a much slower ship, makes this theory less credible. One possibility is that the noxious fumes started to leak from the cargo, combined with the water in the hold, led Captain Briggs to hastily order the abandonment. To further support this theory, 9 barrels of alcohol were found empty and believed to be the source of the fumes. According to De Gratia's crew's testimony, some ropes were found tied to the hull of the ship. It is speculated that the lifeboat was tied to the ship in hopes to return once the imminent danger was gone, but they obviously never made it back. There is also a possibility of an explosion due to the fumes. Recent experiments have shown such an explosion could have taken place without leaving the usual traces. However, Captain Briggs was very experienced, and such a hasty decision on his part is somewhat unlikely. No fumes were reported by De Gratia crew on the first encounter. Moreover, 9 of the empty barrels were made up of red oak, which is more prone to leak. Another theory takes daily logbook into the account. Although the original logbook has been lost sometime around 1885, there exists a transcript of the last 5 days in Solifleur's notes. It is believed that Briggs was perhaps using faulty equipment, due to which he was lagging 193 kilometers behind without him knowing. which is why he didn't see land as expected. Mary Celeste previously carried coal, which probably plugged the ship's pumps, making it hard for Briggs to accurately measure the water in the hold. This gave Briggs false impression that the ship is sinking and they have been lost. Seeing the land after 3 days from expected made Briggs order everyone to abandon the ship and head towards the land via the lifeboat. The possibility that they made it to the land is very low, since they would have made contact if they did. Still, this theory does not explain why Briggs didn't mention anything in the logbook, or why didn't he order to throw some cargo off if he thought the ship was sinking. There are just too many unanswered questions. Mary Celeste continued to sail till 1885 before she was purposely crashed beyond repair to carry out insurance fraud. During her later journey, 2 more captains died prematurely. So much time has passed and so many records have been lost. We might never know what really happened on Mary Celeste, but without a doubt, it is one of the most fascinating sea tales and will remain so.